Is chocolate going extinct? In this video, we're talking to a scientist and taking a tour of a chocolate factory to see what's wrong with chocolate and if there's anything we can do to fix it.
Thank you to our patrons and to NordVPN for sponsoring a portion of today's video.
I love chocolate chip cookies. It's my comfort food. It's something that I make when I'm sad. And Sabrina sent me this article that kind of freaked me out. And do you know what that article said?
Cocoa prices have reached an all-time high because of this disease that's attacking the cocoa plants. Quote, the disease can be catastrophic.
How in the world are you supposed to make a chocolate chip cookie without the chocolate? It wouldn't be a chocolate chip cookie. And that is basically the feature that I'm a little afraid of.
I know that there's other more important things in the world, but this is important to me.
Oh, I burned my butter. I wasn't paying attention. So what is gonna happen to chocolate? Why is this happening, and is there any way to stop it? Is it gonna go extinct because of the disease? Is it gonna go up too much in price because it's gonna be too expensive because there's not enough chocolate to go around? Great questions. And I wanna figure that out. This is not the future that I want. This is just cookie.
The price of cocoa has increased drastically in the past 10 years. In January of 2013, the average price for a ton of cocoa was $2,275 US. Jump to January of 2023, the average cocoa price was $2,540 US. Not a big difference. But when you compare it to December 2023's price, you'll see that it jumps pretty drastically, at an average of $4,250 US per ton. And it's not getting any cheaper.
So I bought this bag of chocolate. It wasn't cheap. It was $50 Canadian for 2.5 kilograms of chocolate. It's not just because it tastes really good, but because it's supposed to be 100% sustainable and 100% traceable. This sounds like an ad, and I promise you it's not. You'll know that in a second. But if you scan this QR code on the back, you're supposed to be able to trace the origins of where your chocolate is coming from. I scanned the QR code, and it didn't work. That aside, it didn't take me long to figure out this chocolate, and a lot of the chocolate in the world comes from West Africa. And that is where a lot of these agricultural issues are happening. There's a lot of issues in cocoa production, labor issues, crop disease, deforestation, but the one that I want to focus on is the agricultural side. Cocoa is the most important ingredient in chocolate, and I think that that is going to play the most important role in the price of chocolate in the future, and if we can have it in the future. But I want to talk to somebody who can share some insights on this better than I can and better than what I can find on the internet. Well, currently I'm early for my meeting, so I thought I'd tell you about the sponsor of today's video in the meantime, which is NordVPN. What does cocoa and a VPN have in common? Well, viruses. You're not gonna exactly apply the same virus protection strategy to a crop that you would to your computer. But with a computer, it's very easy, and you can do it from the comfort of your own device with a VPN. What are we protecting from? Malware, viruses, data leaks, password leaks. There's a lot of stuff that we have on our personal devices, and we want to keep it safe, so we should use a VPN. Currently, I'm in the comfort of my own home, but sometimes a really easy way for people to hack into your device is when you're out and about browsing on a public Wi-Fi. Sometimes there's those people out there, and they pose as fake Wi-Fi networks, so when you click on them, computer's compromised. I'd recommend using a VPN, and why not use NordVPN?
And another Nord product is NordPass.
If you are someone who maybe uses the same or similar-ish passwords across your devices, you can generate passwords and store all your passwords in there so they are safe. Our data is important and very precious, so why not make sure that we take that step to make sure that our personal information and our devices are protected. A couple things that are really great about NordVPN is that there's 24/7 customer support, and if you don't like NordVPN, within 30 days you can get your money back. It's basically a free trial for the first month if you don't like it. So if you want to check it out, use our link in the description below and you can get 4 months for free off of a 2-year subscription.
And you can find this at nordvpn.com/answer in progress.
Thumbs up to that. I should hop on this call now.
I'm Sophia Carodenuto. I'm a professor in the Department of Geography at the University of Victoria. My research focuses on how global food systems can be improved to better support people and the planet. So the main ingredient in chocolate is cocoa, which comes from a tree that grows in tropical climates.
Chocolate is originally from Latin America.
It's a long way from West Africa.
Even though 70% of the world's cocoa comes from West Africa. The Spanish were like, oh my gosh, I really like what you're doing with this cocoa bean. Let me take it over and bring it to the world.
It was initially only available for elites in Europe, but it soon became more widespread. As with the bloody history of sugar, once the demand for cocoa grew, cocoa plantations were created in various colonies, and much of the production came from from slave labor. Deforestation, that's really the main environmental issue. A lot of the deforestation is attributed to cocoa. There's been a lot of expansion of kind of more of a monoculture, full sun system that removes the native primary forest and creates a sheer monoculture cocoa farm.
These monocultures create open windows for crop disease, pests, because these plants are less resilient.
You're losing biodiversity, you're losing the ability of trees to support soil retention, water retention. So there's a lot of degradation, soil loss. Really the microclimate of the area, we're seeing that it's changing because there's been so much forest that has been lost. Farmers are the most vulnerable in this system. The farmers have to take the hit when it comes to not being able to sell their crop. There are ways to restore and regenerate cocoa farms by planting native trees, by diversifying species, very local measures that are specifically designed for different farms. But the reality is it's very expensive. I would not be surprised if, we are looking at more expensive chocolate.
There's such a long history of taking and taking from the earth, and it kind of makes me sad that something that allows me to have so much enjoyment is really taking a toll on the environment and the people that are making this chocolate for us. If we want to have chocolate in 100, 200 years from now in a way that's sustainable, what are we to do? So I looked into some alternative farming options, and turns out there's a bunch. Permacultures, crop rotation, organic farming, mixed farming is another option. There's a lot of smart people out there that are trying to find creative solutions that use modern technology or ones that are inspired by a more natural ecosystem. But there was one solution that I found that really caught my eye, and that's forest gardens. Now, what the heck is a forest garden? Let me open up the notebook. A forest garden is an indigenous type of agriculture where you have a bunch of different kinds of plants that are planted together. Let me show you. Shrubs, things on the ground. These could be like berry bushes maybe. And then you also have these really tall trees. Ooh, plants. So you've got this variety of plants that are all planted in the same area. And how this looks is quite different from a monoculture, which is how cocoa is typically farmed. These look like trees from the Lorax. So you just have one type of plant here. Look at that difference. The idea behind planting these different species together that are low to the ground, high to the ground, in the middle, is that they all help each other grow. The soil's packed with more nutrients because there's different crops. The tall trees provide shade. Specifically with cocoa, having a variety of different plants is supposed to help with the water retention in the soil. It's supposed to be this really beautiful and symbiotic relationship that helps every single plant grow. And in this case, when it comes to cocoa, they're usually grown with vanilla beans, coffee, maybe some berries. There's a lot of benefits that I see forest gardens providing to cocoa production. But from what I've seen, it's something that currently can only be done on a pretty small scale. And of course, it's not the only form of sustainable agriculture. This is a pretty interesting theory, but I wanted to see if it worked in practice.
So I spoke to Michael Sacco, who has a PhD on cacao forest gardens and the indigenous knowledge teachings of cacao and chocolate, also a chocolatier and the founder of Chocosol.
Neil, what kind of cow makes chocolate milk? A cacao.
Our saying is Chocosol is good for mind, body, and soil. Our vision is to make the most delicious, nutritious, ecologically regenerative chocolate, coffee, and tortillas humanly possible. We've got eating chocolates, we've got drinking chocolates, our forest garden coffees, direct from indigenous communities where we grow vanilla in with the coffee.
The forest garden is not just sustainable if it's done properly, it's regenerative.
Now, I knew that chocolate took a lot of work to make, but I didn't realize just how long the process was for chocolate to go from this is a real cocoa pod, by the way, to this. And it all starts on the farms. They take the pods and the seeds. I'm gonna crack open the pod. I guess normally that would be like wet. They ferment them, they dry them out.
We work with the producers on specialized fermenting processes, specialized drying processes.
When we receive it, we bring it over here into this system here, which is a one-ton gravity-fed, custom-made cacao cleaning process.
The cocoa beans get roasted, and then they look like this. These are cocoa beans.
The Loring Smart Roaster is one of the most ecological roasters in the world.
The first thing that struck me when I got here is how amazing this place smelled.
I don't want to change my clothes when I go back home.
And then from there, it goes through a breaker winnower.
They get turned into these cocoa nibs, crushed up pieces of cocoa. This smells so good. These are roasted and they smell delicious. And from there, this gets turned into a paste.
Upstairs is the stone grinding room. What goes in a nib comes out a cacao liquor.
We only stone grind our chocolate. So that's a low heat, low shear stone grinding for a low amount of time.
In this here, you're gonna see about 5 different kinds of cocoa nibs, all of which have different origins and slightly different fermentation and drying processes.
And then like a sommelier, we try to create flavor symphonies, dynamic flavor symphonies.
Once the cacao is turned into a cacao liquor, we dump it into the secondary grinders with our dumper. It'll stay in here for 36 to 48 hours. All that's gonna happen in this grinder is we're gonna reduce the particle size of the cacao, and after about 6 or 8 hours, we're gonna add the sugar, and then we're gonna reduce the size of the sugar. We've got an organic coconut sugar, we've got an organic maple sugar, and we've got a organic fair trade Rainforest Alliance sugar cane. We're putting the highest quality ones that we can put in there, and then we pass it down through the floor into the tempering room, which is down below. So we're using a mezzanine approach.
Chatting with Michael and seeing a tour of the factory made my love of chocolate that much stronger. Seeing the whole process really made me realize how much care is put into every single stage of the chocolate making process. And that all begins on the farms, making sure they choose the right beans, making sure they're grown sustainably.
In this conversation, we're not gonna solve the problem of climate change. But what's interesting to look at is how forest gardens are one of the, if not the most regenerative form of agriculture ever developed by any civilization anywhere at any time.
These forest gardens are a beautiful way to be able to sustainably produce cocoa so that we can have it in 100, 500 years from now. It's not just about us, it's about the future generations.
Planting those forest gardens is about going away from just an annual cropping system of thinking about the immediate needs of right now and starting to design a cultural approach that thinks about things on a much larger time scale.
And I think what Michael and his team are doing is really special, where they're working directly with the producers, they know exactly where their cocoa is coming from, and they know exactly how the cocoa is being harvested. There's no people in the middle, they buy directly from their farms, and they make really good chocolate, even to the factories. You look at their gravity-fed chocolate machines, you can see their rooftop gardens where they compost the husks of the cocoa and put it into the soil to be able to grow even more stuff. Nothing gets wasted, and every single stage of the cocoa bean is cared for. And this process is so different than what I've seen at the commercial scale. I mean, we've heard about some of the ways that cocoa has been unsustainably farmed. Comparing that commercial chocolate making approach to this small batch artisanal approach, you can really see the difference in the product of the chocolate. Chocolate to me has always just been a sugary treat. Something to casually enjoy, to pick up your feelings off the floor, and feel good. But what I've realized after seeing what they're doing is they're not making candy that you buy at the convenience store. They're really making food. Chocolate as food, not as a candy.
Craft chocolate, artisan chocolate, is chocolate that still maintains somewhat of an aura, somewhat of a human touch, not participating to the same degree in that destruction. Good quality cacao chocolate is not cheap, nor should it be cheap, but neither should it be so precious that only the richest 1% can afford it.
Forest gardens are just one method that cocoa producers are adopting to produce more sustainable chocolate. Now, more sustainable chocolate is more expensive, not just because of the small scale, but if this method were to be adopted in parts of the world where these practices aren't already in place, it would mean even more cutbacks in production for the next 50, 100 years until the soil and the land can regenerate itself. I'm not sure if major chocolate companies are going to change their practices anytime soon. For now, we might only have small amounts of sustainable cocoa. That did not make as much of a mess as I thought it would. So the next time you buy chocolate, here's what you can look out for.
The most important thing that you should be looking for is the origin. If you can find chocolate that very clearly says, this cocoa is from Madagascar, or this cocoa is from Ghana, if they can say this is from this province or this farming area within that country, you're more likely to have a product that is just more ethical because you can have that traceability.
Chocolate's not going extinct if we're more responsible in the ways that we grow it and consume it. Cheers. Happy chocolate enjoying. Hope this video wasn't too much of a bummer. I'll let Michael take us out with the song.
There's a song too. Don't video this, just audio this. Chocolate, quetzalcoatl. These are words in Nahuatl. Chocolate, quetzalcoatl. Para beber y comer.